I asked for suggestions on how we could improve the CrossFit Open, and the community did not disappoint. Welcome back to the channel. Yes, the CrossFit Games season is officially over. We've had a chance to reflect, to meditate upon what happened, what we liked, what we didn't like, maybe the changes we would like to see. And that is what this series of videos is going to focus on. I want to look at the Open, quarterfinals, semifinals, and the Games itself, and see in what ways we could make changes that would improve the Games season as a whole. No doubt throughout the season we had ideas, or we heard people talk about things that they would like to see changed for the next year. Well, now we have an opportunity to compile all of those things together, and let's see what we can accomplish. Now, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, of course, comment below with your ideas, for example, on this video, with changes you'd like to see in the Open, or things you think were good, or things you think need to improve or change. You can also include comments about the quarterfinals, which will be the next video that I make, if you've got any good ideas on how we could make that something better and more enjoyable, or a better test for the athletes. Of course, you can always just send me something directly over Instagram at JasonCFmedia if you want to be a part of this discussion. So it's only right that I start with the first stage of the games, that is the CrossFit Open. And the way I wanted to present the information in the video, I put out a message asking for people's suggestions. Some people sent me stuff previously anyway, and of course I've heard things throughout the year. So I've compiled together kind of the main ideas. I'm not going to present you with just a list of this is the way we could improve it, but what I'd like to do is put it across in how you would encounter these different changes chronologically in a kind of theoretical CrossFit Games season. So where would we begin? Well, speaking about the Open, the first place would be registering for the Open. Now we might think, well, hold on, registering for the Open couldn't be simpler. If you've got a CrossFit Games account, you simply click that you want to go into the Open and you pay your fee. Otherwise, you need to make an account. That's pretty simple as well. So why would we want to change anything about registration? And perhaps that is the problem. It is too simple. For Rich Froning to register for the Games, for Justin Medeiros to do it, and for myself, there is no difference. We all register in exactly the same way. Yet our goals are incredibly different. Rich is obviously planning to go team, Justin is hoping to win the Games once again, and I'm just doing it to get involved in what's happening at my local affiliate. So I actually had a surprising number of suggestions on things people would like to see changed with regards to registration. And a lot of it depended on whether or not you were kind of community focused or games focused. And to the point where actually some people felt that maybe there should be a division. Maybe we should have kind of a community level where there's one fee, and yes, you're on the leaderboard, you can see how you compare against these incredible athletes. You can also see, how you compare with your friends at your local box. But that's it. Your season ends there. It cannot progress any further. And then you have kind of the Pro League, and you can sign up for that one. And in this case, it's maybe a little bit more money, but it is the only way to advance to the next stage of competition. And that extra money, well, that could go towards things like video reviews. So we'll be talking about judging and video reviews a little bit later, but this could be some of the funds that CrossFit needs when they say they don't always have the time or money to review all of the videos that are being sent in and things like that. Another really nice suggestion for the community side of things was, how about making the first Open somebody does free? So they don't have to pay for it. And that's a really nice idea, right? Because I can think of a lot of people at my local box who, although they maybe do the Open workouts, they've never actually signed up for the Open. Something is holding them back. Could it be that one time doing it for free is the only spark they need to then start signing up every year? So, you could reason that maybe it would be a loss for CrossFit financially the first time everyone signs up, but if they're then going to sign up multiple years after that, they're going to get their money back. Now, maybe we like that it's the only time that we are throwing down together with Justin Medeiros, Pat Vellner, or these athletes. It's the only time our names are perhaps going to be on the same leaderboard as theirs. So we might not want to make such a split between kind of community and athlete, and that's understandable. But still, this idea of, calling your shot, knowing what the end goal is when you register, and that could particularly be manifested in the difference between somebody competing as an individual or on a team. Should there be the requirement that when you register, you make a declaration you're going to either compete as part of a team or as an individual? If you are a team athlete and you do surprisingly well in the Open, you cannot now change your mind and decide to compete as an individual. Likewise, if you're an individual and things maybe don't go quite as well for you as you had hoped, you cannot have a team as a plan B. This would also mean that athletes couldn't inflate the score of an affiliate by being part of a team when they have no intention of joining that team. And speaking of teams, when you register for a team, should there be changes to how it works currently? Some people feel maybe it should be stricter than it currently is. So we can't have people just arriving for a season and then heading out, this kind of loophole to get around not being allowed super teams. Some people feel that should be made stronger. It should be a true affiliate cup, whereas others are on completely the other side of the argument. They actually feel that we should just get rid of these rules anyway. Teams are finding loopholes or ways to get around it, or at least the teams that can afford to do that. So why not just eliminate the rule and have a true super cup with super teams once again? And some people would actually like to see both. They would like there to be an affiliate cup as well as kind of a super team cup. I think that'd be quite difficult to pull off at the moment, but definitely something that we could see happening in the future if CrossFit continues to grow. Another area that registration is really important in is when signing up as an adaptive athlete. If there was some more clarity or scrutiny over the athletes that were signing up. This year we saw some complications when there was some debate about eligibility of certain athletes, but it was happening once they'd already punched their ticket to the games. That feels like it's far too late in the season to be having these issues. One, because at that time it's an emotionally charged discussion, because now you're saying whether or not someone gets that ticket that they've earned to go to the games, which is a lot more challenging than just saying they can't compete in a division in the first place. But it's also discouraging for people if they are truly competing in this division, if they feel that they're going to be going up against people that maybe don't belong. So more clarity perhaps at the rule book, or perhaps in reviewing those that have signed up as adaptive athletes earlier in the season, would make it a more enjoyable and fair experience for all the athletes involved. And maybe one final issue we could talk about with registration is the fact that at the moment it is done purely on nationality. Now, should there be some provision made so that somebody could request, instead of having it applied to their nationality, somehow applying it to their residency? Maybe they need to have been a resident for a certain amount of time, perhaps longer than currently it would be for a team athlete, so maybe a year plus in another country. But it's true, and we saw it this year, that it was an issue for certain people that although on their passport they have one nationality because they happen to be born in a country that maybe they hadn't lived in for many, many years, it did then become a challenge when we came to the semi-finals. But should there be a provision in place, maybe it's an application process that they have to go through, but it allows an athlete to say, look, I need to compete on a track going through this nation and not the nationality of my birth, whatever reason. Maybe they need to be able to prove their residency over a certain period of time, or maybe give a justifiable reason as to why they wouldn't be able to continue the season if it was applied to their nationality. But it's a problem that we have seen crop up this year, and it's something that, once again, if addressed earlier in the season, would be a better solution than just having to cram some extra people into the last chance qualifiers because they were unable to attend the semi-final to which they were assigned. So now let's talk about the test itself, or the open workouts. Well, first of all, how many weeks do we want? This seems to be something that's really divided people. Some love the fact that it's now just 3 weeks, particularly box owners or those maybe working in an affiliate found it a little easier to kind of keep the zeal and the fire going for the open over the course of 3 weeks with their members, whereas 5 weeks people were starting to get a little bit tired. Whereas for some people, they feel for the test to really count, they need more tests. So 5 weeks is a better option because it allowed for more tests. It looks like probably, again, middle ground is somewhere nice, not necessarily 4 weeks, but maybe 4 tests. So as we saw in previous years where we had 3 weeks, but we had a part A and a part B for one of the workouts that gave you 4 scores. I think that seems to be the option people are most happy about. And then within the tests or the workouts themselves, there were a lot of suggestions. There were certain movements people didn't want to see show up. There were certain movements people felt really needed to be there. Olympic lifting was obviously something that was really noticeably lacking this year. And I think an interesting point on that is that a lot of, local box members that have no intention of taking it any further than the open still all year are working on their clean, their snatch, their Olympic lifts, and it would have been nice for them to have an opportunity to show off the progress they've made over the year. Another really interesting idea with regarding the workouts was somebody suggested, what if they released at least one of the workouts like in advance, maybe even a month in advance? And I don't really know what I think about that. I think it would be an interesting experiment to see how people kind of tailor their maybe training or their approach to the open, knowing one when it's potentially one of 3 or 4 workouts? Is that going to be a help or a hindrance? It could be a good social experiment, if nothing else. And somebody also said they just wanted the Open to mean more. And I wonder if that is off the back of comments we heard from people like Sarah Sigmundsdottir that said the Open doesn't matter, and the just general approach that the top tier athletes have taken towards the Open, that it really for them doesn't matter. It is simply a stepping stone to the next stage of competition. And I will come back to a way that the Open could really matter a little bit later as well. And then, of course, we can look at the judging standards. Now, lots of suggestions about these, as I'm sure you can imagine. I think some of them would be easier to apply if we did have those kind of 2 separate tracks, the just for fun athletes versus the I'm a pro and I'm planning to go to the games track. But there are some things that would help no matter what you're doing. A lot of people felt that it needed to be done at an affiliate. Now, understandably, that can be difficult for people that don't live anywhere near a CrossFit affiliate or move around a lot or for whatever reason can't get to an affiliate. So having a provision for doing it with a licensed judge and being able to maybe just put in a video submission, it does make sense. However, a lot of people still felt very strongly that it's the CrossFit Games, it needs to be done at a CrossFit licensed affiliate. And then you would also need a judge that has completed the judging course. And that was another point that a lot of people really felt strongly about. And if you have any intention of making it to the games or making it to the next stage of competition, well, then there was a lot of people saying they need to video every workout, submit every workout. And those videos, some saying they should be public, that everybody should be able to see them. Others saying, well, at least there should be a team of judges that are able to see every video, and perhaps they can flag a video if they feel that maybe it was judged incorrectly, and perhaps after enough people flag a video, it gets kind of kicked up the line to be reviewed once again and maybe some adjustments made. Speaking of scoring adjustments, this was another thing that people had issue with, that the punishment doesn't always fit the crime. We know Hiller brought up some examples in his videos this year with Danny Spiegel or Hip and Steel, where the punishment given by CrossFit, the penalty that they were given, which was a time penalty, maybe it didn't fit to the fact that they hadn't completed perhaps any reps of a certain movement. And that really could be an issue, isn't it? That if somebody is just constantly not meeting the standard and then simply given a time penalty, is that enough? If we saw more people being disqualified because they failed to actually complete the Open workout, well, wouldn't that cause everybody to suddenly hold themselves more accountable? Because a slip up in the Open that doesn't really matter could be the thing that costs you your ticket to the games. Well, that would be a way of making the Open matter that little bit more. And also the judge or the affiliate, the idea that they too should be penalized if they are repeatedly submitting scores that are not correct because they are failing to call out no reps, or they're not keeping their athlete accountable to the standard, or whatever else they are doing. Should it be that it's not just the athlete that gets in trouble, but also the judge or the affiliate, because they should be holding the athlete accountable to these standards as well? And finally, maybe it shouldn't be finally, it's a bit of admin. It probably should have been addressed actually before registration, because it's not technically the Open, but it's the thing that we would want to have well before the Open, and that is the complete rulebook. A rulebook that doesn't constantly change. We noticed this year we were getting version 6, version 7, version 8. Also a rulebook that is clear for the athletes. We saw problems with the adaptive division where there were certain rules that were there written, and then we were told, well, actually we don't apply that rule because it's too difficult to quantify. But people that had not signed up for the division had applied that rule themselves. We also saw complications on the teams division because we saw Victor Longsved, CrossFit Nordic, that he wasn't allowed to compete because although the way they had read the rulebook, they provided CrossFit with everything needed, well, the way CrossFit understood the rules was slightly different. They felt that they needed that in conjunction with other information. So it was kind of the difference between an or an and, neither of which was written in the rulebook. So more clarity in the rulebook, making sure that athletes understand exactly what is expected of them before they register for the season. And then something that isn't necessarily a before or after, but just in general, was media coverage around the Open. So we have, of course, the Open announcements, people like that, but it was also pointed out things like your box on tour, or just more media seeing what's happening, having more focus on the local boxes, local athletes, what they are doing. People would like to see that. I think a lot of it depends on your view of the Open. Are you viewing it as a mass participation community event, or is this the first in many steps in order to make it to the games? And what do you want to see? Do you care about local athletes throwing down once a year at the Open, or do you care about what Justin is doing and his first steps towards the CrossFit Games? And depending on how we view the Open, it seemed that was sort of what motivated different people's decisions on how they would like to improve the Open. The improvements in the Open are linked to it being a more community-focused event. For others, it's more about the purity of the test, the movement standards, the judging, and things like that. So depending on our view of the Open, we're going to probably have different ideas on how to improve it. I'd love to know what you think. Please leave a comment below if you've got any more suggestions or anything you really don't want to see happen. And there we have it. That's some of the suggestions that I received about how we would improve the Open. I realize I probably didn't include everything that was sent through. I didn't get too specific. I didn't mention at the time whether or not people were happy for me to include them in the video. So I would say that now for the next one. If you want to leave a comment and you're happy for me to use your name and mention that it was your idea, please let me know. So if you've got any suggestions, either for changes you'd like to see in the Open or for changes you'd like to see in the quarterfinals, the next stage of competition, please let me know. Comment below, send me a message on Instagram, whatever you prefer. So kind of reviewing what I learned from the different responses I got from the community, it was interesting to see how many people were really focused on the registration, whether that be to make it more community focused, whether that be people kind of calling their shot in advance, making sure that you knew what your end goal was before registering, having a bit more clarity with the rule book before people signed up, and then the workouts themselves. Do we go 3 weeks, 5 weeks? What do you want to see included in the test? These were the kind of the biggest issues that I found regarding the Open. And really that sort of sums it up for the Open. So I've enjoyed making this video. I'm looking forward to hearing your suggestions for the quarterfinals because I can't wait to see what great ideas people have. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in a future video.